Directors, acting teachers, and acting coaches are really fond of saying, good acting is good listening. What does that really mean? Hey, it's all about listening. On today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach. I'm a casting director with the McCorkle Group in New York. How are you? Oh, I'm so glad you're here today. Really great to have you on board. Today we're going to be talking about listening. And you know that more than half of your good acting is listening. More than half. So we're going to cover that topic in full. We're going to break it down. And so that by the end of this podcast, you're going to feel a lot more confident and a lot more excited about your auditions and your work as an actor. But first, this is that moment of the podcast where I get to say thank you so much for tuning in to Casting Actors Cast. It's been a really amazing journey, and I'm really grateful that you're here. You can get more information on the website at castingactorscast, all one word, .com. And you can also fill out the form on the website that says dive into the talent pool. And when you do that, it's going to open up some freebies for you. There are some handouts from previous podcasts that you can connect with. But in addition to that, there's a free downloadable PDF book called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the Voiceover Workshop for Professional Actors. It's a 100-page PDF book on doing voiceover work, voice acting. So if that's something you have some interest in, whether you're currently a professional doing voice work, I think you'll find it helpful. But if you're brand new, you're going to discover whether or not this is an area you should be checking out. So that's castingactorscast, all one word, .com. My email address is castingactorscast@gmail.com. So that's kind of easy, right? This is also a moment where I get to say thank you to Actors Connection. Actors Connection in New York has been providing really wonderful classes, workshops, seminars, intensives, all using and working with professionals in the industry. So as an actor, you might want a place where you can go to and actually work with people in the business doing the work. And it's a really great opportunity to do a lot of online work as well. They're doing online classes, webinars, all kinds of really great stuff at Actors Connection. So there's my shout out to that amazing organization. All you have to do, I think, is just Google actorsconnection.com/New York, because there's a New York Actors Connection and a Los Angeles Actors Connection. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So let's get into it, shall we? I want to give you as much information as I possibly can about this subject. So at first I wanted to treat it like, okay, this is going to be more of an acting lesson. But then I thought, I just want to address what is involved when an actor is given that note. You need to listen more. Or in acting class, I'll never forget being told, oh, it's all about listening. It's more than half listening. I never kind of figured that out. I never kind of understood why it would be more than half. And so I'm going to break it down for you. So here's where we need to start. Let's break down listening in human terms, and then we can apply that to our acting. In human terms, the first thing that happens is we hear. We hear, we listen, we hear something. And when that happens, we then process something. So we hear, then we process that information, what we're hearing, and then we react. So those three steps happen almost like automatically, like really like within a nanosecond. You hear something, you process what you've heard, and then you react to it. Now that's in life. That's what we do as human beings. Actors have to do exactly the same thing. So the first thing that happens is when we hear something, we need to address that and deal with the three phases of actor listening. Phase number one, information. We're getting the information. And that literally is just the content of the message. So when someone comes into the scene and says, your house is on fire, hopefully that is not part of what you're actually dealing with. It's just like a line that you're going to be given. Your house is on fire. That's information. So in its basest format, the information is the first thing that we listen to. That's the first thing that we respond to. The second phase of good actor listening is the emotional connection to that information. For example, if I were to say, your house is on fire, as opposed to, your house is on fire. The difference being is that there is an emotional connection to both of them, but you can really feel the internal mechanism of the emotion taking place on that second choice. So information, emotion, and the third phase that becomes part of this triad of the process is the perception of the deliverer. What I mean is the feedback you're getting from the person delivering the information, delivering the message. So in acting terms, that would be subtext, right? What the other person is thinking while they're delivering that information. So that's one part, is the subtext, what's actually being said versus what is the other actor's intention with what is being said. So that's a perception issue. The second type of perception is the empathy. If that person is saying to you that your house is on fire and they are really upset and they are having an empathetic response to what you're saying, then you're getting some additional information with those listening skills. So those three phases, plus the third perception of delivery, is the perceived purpose of delivering the information. What I mean by that is, if someone says to you that your house is on fire and they're doing it in very flat, unemotionally, and maybe there's a sense that they're actually kind of happy that this is happening to you, So that is the perceived purpose of what that actor is delivering to you. So what is the perception of that character delivering this information becomes also part of the listening process. Now, listen, when all three of those phases are processed, then it's then that your character can fully react. Now, how you react to the information, those three phases, can really vary greatly. You can respond almost immediately, right? Your reaction could be one of, oh my God, my house is on fire. I got to go do something about it. Or you might decide that you have a partial comprehension, that you don't fully understand, that maybe it's taking your brain a few extra seconds to process that information. And that, of course, depends on your character's makeup, and how you decide that your character's behavior would respond, how your character behaves in the world of that new information being given you. And then finally, you have to make a decision about, of those three phases, the information, the emotion, and the perception, of those three phases, at least one of them is going to demand more attention from your character than another. For example, your house is on fire. Now that might just be like you didn't quite get all of the words, but you got the emotion. And you certainly didn't get a perception about why this person is delivering this information, did you? So the reality for an actor is to decide, based on listening, which one of those three phases is going to command the most attention. And then, of course, you can react accordingly. Okay, now I know we've kind of gotten esoteric into this, right? We've gotten into the weeds. But honestly, if you pull those moments apart in any script or any audition that you have, then you can reassemble a process by which your character can have truthful, realistic reactions. There are so many auditions that I've been to where I just wish that the actor had spent a little more time on that listening part, the listening and how it affects you, and then reacting. Sometimes actors have come in with a preconceived idea of how they're going to react. And when that happens, it becomes presentational. It becomes something that you are presenting to me rather than something you're experiencing at the moment. Right? Good. So let's move on from there. How do you use this information in a constructive way? So I know I can tear it all apart and we can dissect it until we're like exhausted. I hope you're not exhausted. I hope you're hanging in there with me about this, because I think next step is going to be really useful for you. And that is, if you keep it simple, then you're going to be in really good shape. What I mean by keeping it simple, here are 3 examples, is that you just simply need, as an actor, to experience what is being said. In other words, you are a receptor. You are a vessel in which this information is now filling. Okay, that was a little odd as a metaphor goes, but I'm going to stick with it. So being a receptor, just simply experiencing that new information, might be all that you need to do. And that is good listening, and you can react to that. That becomes really good acting. Also, you need to hear how it is being said. So not only is it the information, but earlier when I talked about the emotion, how is that being delivered? How is that character's choice of delivery, of the emotional content, influencing the way in which you're receiving this information? So it's experiencing what is being said, that's the information, how it is being said, that's the emotion, and finally, discern why is it being said to you in the way it is. So that's really a matter of what, how, and why. So now as you assemble these pieces in a scene, you can break it down for yourself. But now that you've explored some of those options, some of those ways in which your character would react in some of those scenarios, then you're going to be in excellent shape, because you're going to be in a truthful place. You're showing, you're experiencing the truth of the situation because you've done the work, because you've explored those options. Now, there are some additional factors I think that should be included when you're working on listening in a scene or in an audition. And of course, that first thing is your relationship to the other person. Now, that might be explained if you're doing a play or you're in a movie or you're in a television show. There may be a backstory or there may be additional information about the relationship of that other person. It also could be that you've never seen this person before, that this is brand new information. So therefore, this is a brand new approach that you're experiencing from somebody you've never met. So relationship becomes a useful additional factor in terms of your listening skill set. Then, of course, the other thing is the circumstances you're in. If someone rushes in and says that your house is on fire, but you are a prisoner in a jail cell, which means there's not really much you can do about it. Sorry. Oops. That reaction is going to be different. So that might be a mitigating circumstance for your reacting. Like, oh man, my house is gone. What am I going to do? I can't. You're helpless. It's a hopeless situation. And then finally, what other influences are there in the scene that might put you in a different place in terms of how you react? So let's kind of backtrack just a second. The reason I want to bring all of this up, the reason that I think this is useful information, is not to just fill your head with more stuff, but I think it becomes a structured way in which you can work on your scene. And personally, I can tell you I've got listening notes in class and from directors, and now I'm on the other side of the table, and I see what they are talking about. And it took me a long time to really understand, you need to listen more. You need to have the experience of listening. I was always frustrated by that because I thought, well, listening is just kind of a passive, you just receive the information. But you know what? Active listening really demands so much more attention than I had given it in the past. And so that's why I wanted to pass this along to you today. Active listening involves those 3 phases, those additional circumstances, and the way in which you process that information through your character. That's what makes a good actor, and that's what makes a scene absolutely, come alive, become fantastic. The best listening in a scene, I think, or any scene, is shifting your energy between your character and experiencing the new information. It's shifting the energy between what your character is and receiving the new information. That includes verbal and nonverbal communication, by the way, so that when you're having a scene with another person, it is a full exchange. It's not just you listening while they're talking, you're talking and they're listening. There's so much more that can be discovered, that can be developed, that can grow in the scene. And that is something that directors are looking for. That is something that we don't want to necessarily see in a direct way, but becomes incorporated into your character when you're auditioning. So finally, I have an assignment. Yeah, I want to give you an assignment. Okay, don't freak out. I'm not going to grade you. But I do want you to think about this in an active way and let me know what you think. I would love for you to reach out either through the website, castingactorscast.com, or through email, castingactorscast@gmail.com. Let me know what your process is. Let me know if this information was useful for you today, because you know what? I depend on your feedback in order to continue to come up with ways in which I can help my fellow actors. I was an actor once. I'm now a casting director. My whole point of doing any of this information is to try and help raise the level of understanding between casting and actors. That's the whole point. So this assignment is really a way to hopefully raise your consciousness in such a way as to see in action when you're watching other work, that you can see the thing I'm talking about. Now, in film and television, you're at the mercy of the editor, right? So sometimes you'll get a reaction shot. Sometimes you won't get a reaction shot. But here is the assignment. I want you to observe ways in which actors in a scene are listening to each other and evaluate their believability. Evaluate whether their listening is truthful, based on how they process it and how they react to that information. Hope that makes sense. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I got a really, side note, I got a really nice note from an actor who says, every time you say, does that make sense? This person says, when they're listening, they say, yes, Jeff, it makes sense. So that's sort of like, I guess, the teacher in me kind of doing that. But I really want this to land. So you have your assignment. You have an idea about what to watch when you're watching episodic television or whether you're watching a feature film, is to really spend time and observe those reaction shots that you're getting and see if that actor is truthful in their responses. And then, you know what? The last part of the assignment, let me know. Let me know if what I said was helpful, and let me know if that was something you actively observed in the work that you are watching. I hope that this was helpful for you today. I really had a lot of fun sharing this with you. And please stay well, stay healthy, and I will see you next time on the next episode of Casting Actors Cast. Thanks a lot.
Casting Actors Cast is made possible with your support just by listening. Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.